protesters blocking the roads and intimidating staff. For more on this, we join on the line now by SABC reporter Fanele Mhlongo. Fanele, good afternoon. So where exactly are you right now, and what are you observing in terms of the impact of the strike?
Oh, good afternoon, Sakina. As you're speaking to us right now, we are outside Hambanati Clinic in Tonga, and that's where the gates have been locked. According to the message that has been circulated by eThekwini municipality, they had to close gates at this clinic because the alleged strikers went into this facility and threatened staff. Hence, they were then instructed to close the gates. As we are speaking to you right now, there are no people who are coming here to get services from this clinic.
And that, of course, is a worry. Fanele, have you been able to speak to some of those people who are dependent on these clinics for chronic medication or whatever else they may need there? Fanele? I think we lost Fanele Mhlongo there. A pity because the strike really causing havoc at the moment for the residents, as you can imagine, who are dependent on these public facilities for their medication. And unfortunately, this has been brought to a grinding halt because of the municipal workers' strike. Fanele, I believe we have you back. I was going to, in fact, I was asking about the impact on the community and whether you've been able to speak to them, especially those who are dependent on these clinics and other facilities to access their chronic medication.
Here at Hambanati, there are no people, as we're speaking right now, as they were earlier on told to go back home because they could not access any services. However, what we've noticed as we're driving up the roads is that there was uncollected rubbish and there was a refuse that has not been collected for days. And as we're speaking right now, it's even stinking in areas where we have parked our vehicles outside this clinic, since the refuse has not been collected for days. Even when you're driving in the city of Durban, you can see refuse that has not been collected for days at this municipality.
Fanele, have the workers and the authorities at the municipality met at all this week?
We have not been told of any agreement that has been reached. So far, the municipality spokesperson told us that if there's any updates, they were going to tell us. However, there is a statement that has been released earlier, I guess it was yesterday, where all the workers were instructed to come back to work since their strike was illegal. And the management was also told that if the employees decide not to come back to work and resume their duties, they will have to be suspended or even face expulsion, since they have embarked on an illegal strike. However, before coming to this Hambanati clinic, we also visited Inkosi Albert Luthuli Provincial Hospital, and that's where that's one of the health facilities that have also been badly affected by the strike.
The unions, have they responded to that communique by the municipality, Fanele?
The unions representing the striking workers have not responded to. We have not received any correspondence from the unions as to what steps they're going to take now moving forward, since the municipality has issued this statement saying that they will have to come back to work or face a suspension or expulsion.
And just a final question, because earlier on in the week, and there were reports that some of the municipal workers on strike were vandalizing some of the infrastructure as they were on strike. Has there been any further details or reports on that?
We have not heard about the infrastructure. There has been vandalized further. But what we've heard is that in areas that were having challenges such as water and electricity outages, the employees who were willing to go and work there could not work because they were receiving threats. And in some cases, they would have to be escorted by private security as well as Metro Police. So that was the situation that was going on. As we're speaking to you right now, the electricity that was having a problem at Inkosi Albert Lutuli was not working for 3 days. Hence, now it has been restored after being fixed in the early hours of today, which also badly affected the operations in that hospital, because we understand that Inkosi Albert Lutuli Hospital is a referral hospital. You go there by appointment. So some of the people who had appointment in the past 3 days had to be sent home. In some cases, people who were at the ICU, they had to be transferred to other hospitals since it was a big challenge. There was this electricity outage in that hospital. Out of 16 theaters at Inkosi Albert Lutuli, only 4 have been operating in the past 3 days with the help of the generators, which the unions are saying that it's not sustainable because the generator can only assist for a shorter period, and they now calling on the Department of Health to ensure that they at least use for time.
All right, we'll leave it there. Fanele Mhlongo, thank you so much. Got the gist of it. Our reporter who is at the moment out in Hambanati, outside one of the clinics that is closed.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Right, let's quickly listen to some of those voice notes that have come through.
Look, Sakina, to your producers and to listeners. This renewal program in the ANC is not working at all. Let me tell you this. The government is actually sending message to people like myself, the activists, the whistleblowers, with what actually I have experienced on the 12th of February, whereby I got a suspended sentence for a crime that I never committed because I speak vocal against police corruption. So we are being intimidated. So Cyril is lying. Cyril remains the same as the other top brass that were actually expelled from the ANC. It's fixed in Cape Town. Thank you.
Right, unfortunately, that's all the time we have this afternoon. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for participating, and, of course, the production team as well. And Musa is standing by with your news at 1.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa dismissed campaign suggestions on his visit to Mpumalanga and thunderstorms warning for Gauteng. Good afternoon. Starting with election news. President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed suggestions that his visit to Mpumalanga today is an ANC election campaign disguised as government's presidential imbizo. The president, accompanied by several ministers, is in Emalahleni for the 12th District Development Model presidential imbizo. His entourage will tackle the water crisis in the province recently. He says, in as much as the country is going to elections in 2 months, this does not mean that the government has ceased to exist.
We've been having imbizos for the past 5 years, and there was no idea that these were electioneering initiatives. And the work of government cannot stop because we've got an election coming. When I go to an election, I don my ANC T-shirt and all that. But here I've come as the President of the Republic, which I've been doing in the past 5 years, going to interface with our people. And these imbizos are so beneficial because we listen and hear what people have to say without any electioneering, and people from various parties come, put their views forward, and we follow up.
Bold One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane has announced that his party will be on the ballot for the national and provincial election 2024. He says despite the difficulties they've been presented with, they've prepared 140,000 signatures for the IEC and have 120,000 candidates on all 19 lists ahead of the 8th March deadline. Previously, Maimane had complained about the unjustifiably high cost of participating in the elections. Meanwhile, party spokesperson Roger Solomons has bemoaned the difficulties faced by new parties trying to take part in the polls.
I think it's about 750,000 rand to register to contest, both nationally and in all 9 provinces. And once again, it makes it harder for newer parties. And it's not just about Bold One South Africa and about us. We're quite comfortable where we are at, but also that it's about, just fighting for those newer parties.
The Democratic Alliance says it will not participate in cover-up of the SAA to cut the deal until Parliament opens up such deliberations to the public. This comes after the Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan reportedly threatened to hold members of the Portfolio Committee liable if contents of the controversial deal are made public. Gordhan handed over documents regarding the deal to MPs. The DA MP and member of SCOPA, Alf Lees.
The deal was a bad deal right from the beginning, and we said to sell, inverted commas, an airline with no debt, because bear in mind that the taxpayer cleared all the debt from SAA after the business rescue or during the business rescue, and to sell that for 51% of those shares for 51 rand was just a bad deal. Even in his letter to the committee, Pravin Gordhan talks about renegotiating the deal, but in the meantime, the original agreement is held in place.
Scores of taxi commuters in Ekurhuleni were left stranded this morning due to a taxi strike. Taxi organisation Santaco says taxi operations in areas like Tembisa, Germiston and Benoni remain suspended. It's believed the strike is due to a disagreement between Santaco patrollers and other security officers that they use. Gauteng police have been deployed to monitor the situation. Santaco's national spokesperson Rebecca Phala.
There is an urgent meeting between the industry and all other affected parties to speedily resolve this matter. We wish to send our apologies to commuters of the taxi industry within the Gauteng province who have been affected by this.
And finally, the South African Weather Services has issued a level 2 yellow warning that could result in severe thunderstorms in parts of Gauteng this afternoon. Forecaster Lihlohono Lotobela says a hailstorm is also predicted which could lead to flooding.
A level 2 warning for severe thunderstorm has been issued for Gauteng, the eastern parts of the Northwest Province, the northeastern parts of the Free State, southwestern parts of Mpumalanga, as well as northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed suggestions that his visit to Mpumalanga today is an ANC election campaign disguised as government's presidential imbizo. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as 10,000 hours at the piano elevate South Africa's teenage pianist Mike Wang to the peak of music. DJ Nilofa Said turns afternoon traffic jams into the best part of your day. And para-athlete Darren Thomas wins hearts, minds and medals in Miami, USA. That's the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6. Repeat Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10:30 on S3.
Mzansi's top spinners are back on the ground for a tire screeching battle.
Here we go. You ready for some fun?
Stay glued to SABC TV channels on 16 March 2024 for a breathtaking experience of Red Bull Shine Moto.
Precision driving at its very best out there. This is Africa. Welcome to a world of spinning.
Do not miss out on the heated spinning by the greats of the sport. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
the likes of Brazil Brothers coming through with Waza. That is how we kick off the show. Today, barely surviving through this heat wave in Johannesburg. And at this particular point, I think even technology and air cons are failing us. It almost feels as though we are deep in the pits of hell. But we shall endure and we shall survive one way or another. I hope that you have had a great day thus far, that your morning has at least kicked off in a productive manner with very little by way of hiccups. We're going to be indulging in all kinds of conversation today, and we're looking at art, music, and in fact creative forms, and how they're becoming powerful sites of political youth agitation. And we're going to be in conversation with the PhD candidate from UCT on that particular perspective. Pages, stages, screens, and more is also coming up today. We are touching base with the folks at the Spectacular Spear Light Art 2024, finding out what is on the schedule for that curated evening. And on the other side of 2 o'clock, we delve into some legal matters, looking at the at concerns rather with legal disputes between franchisors and franchisees, and we'll have that conversation on the other side of 2. It's just gone 10 past 1 o'clock on the Full Circle, and as per usual, you can give us a shout on 086 000 2032 or 061 410 4107.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul, or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
Understand how crucial maximum points are as they rapidly want to climb up the ladder of the Premier League.
Jordan whips in once more. Richards at the back post! Carissa Richards has broken the deadlock at Selhurst Park!
But the Hatters know that they need something magical to escape from danger.
Forward run from Chong, deflection of Bene's header, and the Hatters lead! What a noise from the away end, the Kop end is stuck!
Experience the Premier League encounter between Crystal Palace FC and Luton Town FC on Saturday 9 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Beyond the Headline on SAFM.
2025, when it is up for renewal, will South Africa still be part of AGOA?
We just had the medium in here like 20 minutes ago. I think for the predictions, You've got to ask the people whose job it is to do predictions.
But are you confident that South Africa will remain part of AGOA?
What I'm confident in is that President Biden, who's long been a friend not just of South Africa, but of the region and a believer in the relationship, has said that he wants it to happen. And I know that he has to work through that with the U.S. Congress, and I wouldn't want to get into predicting where that's going.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Clinton Ted Brown is a political affairs counselor of the U.S. mission to South Africa.
Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. We're going to catch up now with Kolosa Ntombeni, who is a PhD candidate in the Department of Environmental and Geographical Science at UCT. And she wrote a piece for the Daily Maverick that asked the question, does art and music in particular become powerful sites of political youth agitation? And she'll unpack her thinking for us behind this particular opinion piece. How are you doing, Kolosa, this afternoon? Are you good?
Yes, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Fantastic stuff. All right, let's start off by the motivation that sort of stemmed the writing of this particular piece in the Daily Maverick.
Yeah, so I listen to the news in the mornings or anytime I have a chance. And one thing that's sort of been bothering me for a while is the way we talk about the youth's lack of participation, especially in the run-up to elections. We often talk about how the youth are an asset by just their sheer numbers. They could unseat the ruling party. But then when we then talk about what the youth are doing, it's almost as if we view the youth as without agency. And so my experiences of being a young person myself and just interacting with my peers, that didn't seem to fit because I know that young people have political views and they do want to participate in the political process. So there was this disjuncture between how political analysts are talking about the youth and my experience of seeing young people daily and interacting with them.
And when we talk about, you talk about the disjuncture between how political analysts are talking about the youth and the sense of agency, and as far as, their participation is concerned, where would you render the disconnect to be?
I think it's around what I'm centering in the piece is that we are looking for youth participation in the wrong spaces. So we're looking at your typical kind of youth participation. So we're looking at the youth in political rallies, or we're looking at them in what they are writing, whether or not they're being included in maybe opinion pieces, etc. And the youth are not there, of course, and there are many reasons for that, why they feel excluded from those spaces. So I think that's the disjuncture, that we're looking for youth participation in the wrong places.
And I mean, so I'm hearing you suggest that perhaps the focus on traditional spaces, political activation, rallies, mobilization, isn't necessarily the place where one connects with the youth, and isn't necessarily the place where you bring them into this conversation around their political participation.
Yes, that's spot on. That's spot on. And I mean, I do want to caution and say, of course, this is not a broad stroke. I'm not saying all the youth are on these other platforms. I'm advocating for sort of having a broad approach. So you can do the typical rallies, but you only find a small portion of the youth. We are in a digital age where young people are online. They are going to art spaces. They're in civil society spaces. They're in multiple places, and I think we need to try and find them where they are, where they're most comfortable. So, for example, in places like Selective Live, or if I go to the Market Theatre in Joburg, or if I'm in Mbaneng, these are the spaces where the youth is there. They feel comfortable to express themselves. Whereas your typical political spaces, we know we have very old politicians. And I'm not, as a young person, I'm not necessarily going to connect with listening into parliamentary debates, etc. But I'll be talking about politics when I'm at the Chisanyama in Khayelitsha or wherever I am. So these are the spaces where the youth are comfortable to talk, and those are the spaces where we need to go to listen to the youth there as well.
And I mean, I know you just made the disclaimer that obviously this is not a broad stroke that speaks to everybody, and I wonder if the vast majority of our listeners would be in agreement or disagreement as we continue to unpack our conversation. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Do you perhaps think that as you listen to Kolosa, who wrote this piece, do you perhaps think that we are missing the connection with young people because of the spaces where we don't find ourselves in, or the spaces where political leaders and those pushing their sort of political their political parties or political organizations do not find themselves in the spaces where young people are, and so they are missing that moment or that potential to connect with young people. I wonder if you are in agreement. 086 000 2032 is the number, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. I think what you say also speaks to what the youth have often said when it comes to representation, the fact that they don't see themselves represented, right? Because one cannot have the expectation of a 70-year-old Gwere to be going to Art Thursdays, for instance, or even cognizant enough to mobilize at Art Thursdays.
Exactly. You're spot on. And I think this is where I'm arguing that I'm not only saying they need to go to those spaces, they could listen to the music, the podcasts that young people are listening to. I mean, there are many podcasts available currently that cater to young people, and you can see from the reactions, the likes, the following of those podcasts, that young people are there. They are participating and thinking about the issue with Dan Quota, and there are many more. So young people are there. They're listening in. So I do think that if we had a range of politicians who represent us, I mean, we are a young country. The majority of people in this country are young people. So we need to have that spread in the political parties, so that in those conversations around where are we mobilizing, and not just mobilizing around the election thereafter, because that's when the real work starts. We need to have young people saying we need to continue to go to these art spaces where young people are voicing their concerns, whether it's about job opportunities or high crime rates. Young people are talking, and we need to listen.
And then on the flip side, if one is to play devil's advocate, you know, I look at spaces, for instance, or platforms like Podcast and Chill with McG, which is the biggest, arguably the biggest podcast in South Africa at the moment, and often garners a lot of conversation around the guests that come there. And I wonder if we had to look statistically at and analyze the sort of fodder that comes out when political figures, because he's now had a few big political figures that have come on the platform. I tend to not see the kind of enthusiasm that I would see if it's a personality or if it's a tabloid headliner. And so that, for me, almost debunks then the argument that if leaders infiltrate youth spaces, youth will then be given the opportunity to engage. Because, and I know it's a limited example, and I think he's only had about 4 people, Julius, John, Gayton, and I think one other politician that's come through. And the only one that seemed to garner chatter was his conversation with the EFF's CIC.
Well, I mean, your answer is in the example that you just ended off with. The one that garnered most support was with the EFF leader, because that's a young party. I mean, I'm thinking about the latest podcast with Naledi Chira on the issue with Dan Quota. That has garnered much support. I'm listening to that podcast as well in a little bit. So when there's a younger person, there is an affinity. We need to relate better, and I think that's what I'm arguing for. And the first way in which you relate to someone is that you look at them just by looking. Can you relate to me? So if I think about a John Steenhuisen, he's very much removed from my experience as a young person. Maybe he doesn't struggle with unemployment. He has a house. I assume he has a house, etc. So I can't see myself in that kind of person. Whereas maybe I don't see myself in the leader of the EFF, but I have other people that I see myself in. For example, I see myself maybe when I see Naledi Chira. She has just finished university. There's something that I can relate with her. So I think that so for me, I would return and say that it's exactly what you're saying. The younger the political party, or the more young leaders in the political party, the more young people are likely to participate. So I would challenge, for example, the other parties to bring in young leaders, not just as representing them just before the election, almost like cherry picking someone and then rising them to the ranks, but systematically including young people. So I need to see a young person rise to and see that they have opportunities to come up in the party and see that representation sustained. I would say maybe then we would also see young people interested when all these other political parties bring in someone.
I got you. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on WhatsApp voice note, you are more than welcome to do so. Alternatively, we are standing by for your calls as well. I think we've got Sammy. Oh, okay. We're still going to try and get him back in Polokwane, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And of course, in your piece in the Daily Maverick, you use a recent sort of musical event as the centered example for your opinion. And there's been the conversation also surrounding the role or lack thereof of musicians and artists in this conversation around mobilizing young people to come to the table.
Yes, and that surprises me, this lack of inclusion of artists in real way, because our country's history shows us the role of artists in mobilizing people. When I think about Nyerema Keba, Tatihu Masikela, I think about Bongo Mafi, I think about Zola, all these figures, and it's not just like the far history, also more recent times. Artists have been very central in talking about our struggles in ways that we can understand and that resonate with us. So I'm also quite surprised that we don't include artists, because art has always been political in South Africa. I think you can just look at the spirit of our artists, or even if you go into theater, people are having conversations through the arts. So I think it's the failure of our current political parties, because when they do include artists, it's maybe just to perform at a rally, which is a cosmetic kind of inclusion. I'm talking about a systematic inclusion, like artists are talking about our issues, and they're finding nuanced way of talking about the issues, not just in, okay, there's unemployment. What does unemployment mean for you in the daily? Artists are writing songs about that.
Well, are they though, Kolisa? I mean, with the exception of a few, is this generation of young creatives really engaging in the issues of the day through the mediums of art?
I would say, I mean, definitely there's a spread of artists, of course. We have your dance music, we have etc. But I made an example about one piece, which was a live performance, but there was poetry also in that. Gito's work is very much spoken word. If I think about many townships in Cape Town, like I think about Delft, I think about Nyanga, I go to the space and I see young people who are there using spoken word as their way to perform. Even if I go to the U.S. context, for example, spoken word is very big in the U.S., and black people and other races as well participate in that to express themselves. So, of course, I agree with you. It's not all artists, and maybe the proportion is not overwhelming, but I think it's there, and people resonate with that music very well, as much as they resonate with other music forms.
Yeah, I mean, some, again, if one is to play devil's advocate, some might say these are very much niche art forms, even within the world of creatives. On the mainstream, the preoccupation is really not around conscientizing youth or even mobilizing youth, by their peers, by their artistic peers.
I suppose I have to agree with you. Yes, it is a niche part, but what is our alternative currently? So if we look at where we are and we acknowledge that we have a deadlock in our country, we know that we need change. Whatever political spectrum you are on, we acknowledge that things are not going well in our country and something needs to change, especially going into the election. And we've tried many other avenues that have not yielded enough. Like I talk about how the number of voters has continued to plummet, meaning we've tried our traditional forms, etc. I'm simply saying tap into this form as well and see what it can yield. It's a provocation to say what can it yield, instead of you can't expect something a different result when you keep on doing the same thing, right? And I'm simply saying you could try this avenue and see the results that it might yield. It might be the necessary nudge you need to actually bring young people into the conversation. But even when we think about the niche artists, I would still say, maybe, for example, I think about Burna Boy. There's the one song, the name of the song will come into my mind just now, but he's talking about how people are using generators the whole time because there's no electricity. Or his other one, Whiskey, which is in his album that did really well. Burna Boy is a household name if you're going to any party, etc. He's talking in this one song about black soot because of the coal mining that's happening in a coastal town in Nigeria. So he's using his found platform, because now we all know Burna Boy, meaning we're going to listen to that song, and he's articulating something that's been bothering him for a while. So I would also say that some artists are sort of coming up the ranks with your typical dance music songs, and then they're having these hits in their albums that are very political as well. So, for example, which is something in and of itself.
Let's pause it there for a second and go to the headline news, and we'll come back to you, Sammy, in Polokwane.
Good afternoon. In the headlines, ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa says party members who are alleged to be involved in corrupt activities will not make it onto the party's candidate list. The ANC's Integrity Commission recommended that those implicated in graft should be barred from standing for public office. President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed suggestions that his visit to Mpumalanga today is an ANC election campaign disguised as government's presidential imbizo. And a former Google software engineer has been charged in California with stealing trade secrets about artificial intelligence while secretly working for 2 Chinese companies. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
086 000 2032. Let's go to Sammy in Polokwane. How are you?
Good evening, good day, Bridget.
Hi,
Bridget,
Sammy. Yes.
I'm listening to you just saying that the youth don't want to vote because they don't see anyone who represents them in parliament and someone who penetrates their spaces. But then these political parties, they are all over social media. That's number one, and the youth is all over social media. The second thing, when they say that they don't see someone who represents them in parliament, well, then it's a problem, because are they looking for solutions or are they looking for someone who represents them in parliament? Because this whole thing that solutions will be brought by people who are young or people of a certain gender or of a certain race, that's a fallacy. It's been proven to be a fallacy. You should look for people who's going there to come up with solutions that are going to address your problem. Not an age person, not a gender person. Because say, for example, look at the party like DA. Let's look at how Western Cape is governed as compared to the other 8 provinces. Sure, they messed up here and there in the Western Cape. That one I can admit. But overall, you look at the Western Cape, it's governed better than each and every province in the country. They implement technology to fight crime. They do a lot of things. Even, and overall, even you look at the Auditor General's report, they are better than all the other 8 provinces.
Okay,
so if you're
we're
going to say that,
campaigning for the DA, though. We're just simply talking in terms of youth.
I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say that you're looking for someone who looks like you in parliament, don't forget about it. You're always gonna keep complaining. You should look for someone who's got solution. Don't look for a woman or a man. Don't look for a black person or a young person in parliament. Look for people who've got solutions. And they are there.
All right, thank you, Sammy. That was Sammy, and let's go to WhatsApp. See what's on your mind there. 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Bridget, listen, I think, the lady there, I think she's just making excuses for the youth, right? When the youth want God, they go to church, When they need to speak to their ancestors, they do it. They don't go online and look for those things. So the youth has got so much power now to then say, we don't agree with how politics is done, but we are in numbers. Let's go into those rallies, boring rallies as they are. Let's go in there, engage and change them to what the youth want, so that the youth can effect the changes that will enable them to thrive in this particular country. It can't be a situation where the youth want things to come to them. They need to go out there and make things happen for themselves. Go into those spaces in numbers, change it to what it is. If they now go into those rallies, make it, go in there in big numbers so that they become, in numbers, and then they could have online stuff.
Shalom, this is Wisdom from Ndwedwe. I believe our young people, they need strong leadership. They need people that will be able to guide them, people that are going to really mentor them mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Young people, they don't need politicians. Politicians are hyenas. Nothing else that they are looking for beside their stomach. So young people, they need mentorship. I call it discipleship in every spheres of life, so that they're able to navigate concerning life. See, politicians, what they do, they just entice so that young people, they come, but there's nothing there. So we need strong leadership. Thank you.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
And I think that's the conversation every time we sort of, and I completely concede to the piece that you wrote, Kolisa, really being about agitating the youth and even broader society, generations prior, to reconsider how we could engage this conversation. But what I consistently observe every time we come into this dialogue, and it's always with young thought leaders who engage us in this conversation, the general consensus is, but it feels as though the youth will make up any excuse not to put their hands up and come to the party and participate. So the goalpost always seems as though, and I always get the sentiment from our listeners that, it seems as though the youth keep shifting the goalpost of what must be done, how it must be done, how we must talk to them, how we must engage them. And there's never a satisfactory marker that says, okay, at this point, we will now engage y'all. And at this point, we will now also come to the conversation and see what we need to do as the young people who sit in the majority of this country. The majority of the deciding power is in our hands.
Yeah, for sure. And I also have to agree with the sentiment you are expressing. We can't always shift the goalposts. So I hope also the article serves as an impetus to the young people for change. A couple of weeks ago, I saw a tweet that someone shared, sort of saying, young people of 1976 were not afraid to go out in the streets. You can't even click on a link online to register to vote. It was a really funny catchphrase. Really, like, it cuts to the core of this, that we need to stand up and make a change. What I'm simply saying is that let's invite young people. At the same time, we have to ask young people to get involved, but let's also make the spaces conducive for young people to be involved. So when I see your traditional political parties, I don't see a space that's opening up for me to get involved if I think of myself. But maybe I find myself more represented in the newer parties, in the younger parties, and that makes me want to go to an election, etc. Because also I have to ask myself, who am I going to vote for? If I'm voting for change, which change? So for me to be able to think about what I'm going to vote for, there need to be a range of options for me. And I'm simply asking political parties to use any avenue they can, including art, to show up for young people and say, we can be this change that you're looking for. Here it is in a tangible way.
It's such an interesting conversation, this, and sometimes I get lost for words because I think we're now at a ballot that's sitting with over 300 potential options. In that over 300 potential options, if I just close my eyes, I can at least even see 2 out of the 4 dominant parties. I can see 2 parties there that have a huge youth representation, who get into the spaces of young people on a daily basis, like one of our listeners said. And yet still, that doesn't seem to be enough for young people.
Well, I guess this is the call for politicians. This is their job, to find ways to relate to their constituency. In there. Yes, we can talk about what young people are doing or not doing, but we can also talk about what politicians are doing. So if you are dissatisfied with the ways in which the conversation is happening, you're going to go past the rally and say, oh, it sounds like what I've heard before. There's nothing different between this party and that. So politicians have to make what they are offering different for us, something fresh. We need something fresh. We know the problems, etc., but we can't see the alternatives. But also, I wanted to touch on one of the listeners who called in and said, we need solutions, not necessarily young leader. In the continent, we have a problem that we know that we're in a digital world, but all of our governments are failing us digitally. There's no doubt about that. So just by way of relating, if you are in your 70s, can you really know how to include the world in this digital world? I think not. Yes, there are exceptions, but just it's a very common sense thing. So I'm saying that the more young people that are in a conversation, the more that conversation will be different, and the solutions that you would put forward would be different. So because young people are dealing with problems. So if I'm a young person today, I want to send my CV through. I don't have access to internet. That's the first thing that I would say is an immediate problem in trying to look for a job, etc. So that conversation will happen. Whereas maybe someone who's older is not even thinking about that. So it's a two-way thing. Of course, the solutions can come from any age. So I'm not disqualifying someone because of their age. I'm not trying to be ageist at all. But I'm just saying your experience colors how you think about solutions. So when you are of a particular generation, you think about solutions in a very typical way. When you are younger, you are used to a world that's constantly changing, and that's what you and I are exposed to. Yes, we might be different ages, you and I, but you've lived in a world where things are constantly changing. You know the value of the internet, etc., of like digitalization more than necessarily someone who is sitting in parliament. If they were doing something different, we would be having this conversation, but they are not.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I absolutely hear you, and will give you that last point. Indeed, I think a healthy balance, intergenerational leadership. There's a lot to be learned from older generations. There's a lot to be learned from younger generations. And if they can find a middle point of working together, we in there with a shot. Kholi Santombeni, thank you so much for the conversation this afternoon. That was Kholi Santombeni. She's a PhD candidate in the Department of Environmental and Geographical Science at UCT, and she wrote that piece in the Daily Maverick. 086 000 2032 if you still want to weigh in with your thoughts on this one, or 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into stages, pages, screens, and more.
Get South Africa's best adventure SUV. The new Ford Everest Sport 2-liter auto bi-turbo 4x2, now from only $14,499 per month with no deposit. With 20-inch alloy wheels and black exterior accents. Get the new Ford Everest Sport at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
Mzansi's top spinners are back on the ground for a tire-screeching battle.
Here we go. You ready for some fun?
Stay glued to SABC TV channels on 16 March 2024 for a breathtaking experience of Red Bull Shine Motor.
Precision driving at its very best out there. This is Africa. Welcome to a world of spinning.
Do not miss out on the heated spinning by the greats of the sport. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Stages, pages, screens, and more on The Full Circle.
We are in conversation now with Jay Patha, who is a South African curator and choreographer, and of course a director working out in Cape Town. And we are talking the Spear Light Art 2024. It's back for its 6th edition, being hosted out in Stellenbosch. How are you doing this afternoon, Jay?
Very well, thank you. And you? All right?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much. So it's that time of the year when we are lighting up the night skies at the Spear Wine Farm. Give us a little bit of just a brief history. I mean, 6 editions into it of the Spear Light Art.
Yeah, so the idea has always been to figure how light art is used as a language, so a sculpture that makes use of light to communicate a particular idea or a message. So we've had over the years several works that have worked in quite an abstract way, as well as in a very socially conscious way. So they've always been works that are immersive, that you can actually participate in the experience of the light work itself. Mm-hmm. So there are works that you can look at, and then works you can participate in. It's a very nascent kind of way of doing art in this country in particular. But but lights and the possibility and the fantasy and the excitement and the beauty of light, of course, surrounds us in everything that we do. But
Absolutely.
this particular exhibition focuses on how artists use this as light, and of course, it's all over the landscape on the Spear Wine Estate. So it's quite beautiful to take that nighttime walk.
I mean, we need, I think, more engaging, interactive exhibitions that use all kinds of mediums. I happened to be in Germany last year and took in the Dark Light exhibition that was absolutely spectacular. Wow, what a wonderful space to be in. And I can imagine that, the Spear Light art resonates in much of a similar way, right? Where it invites audiences and appreciators to come into the space and engage art and engage light in ways that are introspective, interactive, and evoke some kind of emotive as you walk through the various spaces of the wine farm.
Exactly. You can go through it in a. It can sometimes take about 3 hours actually to do it, or you can walk through it quite quickly and then come back to works you want to stay with. The thing about these works is that many of them are done by, conceptualized and executed by artists and designers. So the works may have an initial attraction, but when you sit with it long enough, there are certain meanings and ideas that come through. A very good example is Bondi, Sir James and Tamba Stewart's work, which covers a fairly large expanse, but goes through a variety of different structures, like wooden structures, of homes all over Cape Town. And the way they light it, or the quality of the light you can imagine from a chandelier, which may be in a house in Camps Bay or in Clifton, to a house, to a home in Kailicha with a single bulb. The variations in between gives us a sense of how people live under different conditions, but you approach this via light, and there's something quite beautiful and also deeply moving about how the light quality changes and how different light quality makes you feel and think and be in your skin differently. And their conceptualizing of about 9 different structures like this is one of those. I mean, there are 20 works, so there are quite a few big productions of light that one will have to traverse. But the work like that really makes you appreciate the magic of light, but also asks you to go a little bit more deeply into what it may mean.
Yeah. And just as we wrap it up, one would not think that an exhibition like this, as you say, asks one to go deeper, but you also explore quite sensitive and real themes with this exhibition, issues around gender and race and immigration and labor, very much centered in some of these works.
Absolutely, and also many artists focus on the environment itself and the natural environment, the sense of a dystopia. There is a work that uses an entire massive floodlight on the banks of the Easter River and referencing flooding, so playing with the idea of floodlight, but also on the banks of this river, giving us a sense of the potential for flooding, and what that means especially in a place like Cape Town, where so many people are relocated to those spaces. But there are also extremely light works, very light-hearted. There's a wonderful work by a Swiss artist that talks about these pedestrian lights. So they use pedestrian lights, but in a really magical kind of like an orchestra of these. There's literally about 18 of these structures that play like a symphony, and so they're playing with the idea that if you were an extraterrestrial being and you saw all these lights from far, what might you think of this planet where so much of our movement is controlled by these pedestrian lights? So there are works like that are quite light-hearted and, that help you find humor and a sense of fantasy, and then you get the works that really make you think. There's a work called Invisible by Ken Shandu, which just the outlines of people on the side of a road, and you see trees, etc., through them, but in such a way that they both emphasize the environment as being vulnerable, but also people that are rendered invisible. So it's a variety of experiences to pack in. Yes.
Jay, it sounds like a great night out. So we definitely are going to be diarising this if you happen to be in the Western Cape, and you can be in the vicinity of the Spear Wine Farm, the Spear Light Art 2024. It is opened. It opened on the 1st of March and it's running until the 1st of April. That was Jay Patha, who is a curator and choreographer, and of course working as part of the team bringing this together. Entrance is free for this one, so you can go through and enjoy it. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock right here on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Kids Corner coming up.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Nali Bali Season 9. Part of the magic of birthdays for us as children and adults are the moments when we receive and open gifts that we receive from our friends and loved ones, purchased or created just for us with love. Gifts are a way to connect with someone through giving to hopefully bring joy to their lives. But do you say thank you every time you receive a gift? When someone receives a gift, the appropriate thing to say is thank you, not necessarily for the gift itself, but for the act of giving. Now, before we listen to today's story called Nina's Birthday Chickens, written by Laurie and Preston, let's all get up and dance. Nina and her family were having breakfast in the kitchen.
It's almost your 9th birthday, Nina,
said her mom.
What would you like as a present?
Chickens,
replied Nina without hesitation.
Oh, not this again,
chuckled her dad.
Please, I've always dreamed of having pet chickens,
begged Nina.
Ugh, chickens are such weird pets. I much prefer dogs,
said her older brother Patrick as he patted his dog Max.
Well, Nina, your mom and I think that you're old enough now to take care of chickens on your own, so you can have pet chickens,
said her dad.
Thank you so much. I promise I'll take excellent care of my chickens,
exclaimed Nina, her eyes sparkled with joy.
But what about Max? I don't think dogs and chickens get along,
said Patrick.
It's okay. We'll introduce them to each other slowly,
said Nina.
Well, first we need to build a chicken coop in the backyard,
said her dad. Nina's family spent the next week building the chicken coop. By the time they were done, the coop looked like a little wooden house on legs. Inside it had the roost for chickens to sleep on, trays to catch their poop and feeders for their food and water. Her dad had also put a light in to keep them warm. When Nina's birthday arrived, her parents gave her 4 10-week-old chickens. Nina spent the whole day playing with her chickens. Patrick joined in. He had to admit that they really were adorable. That is until one of the chickens pooped on his foot.
Yuck! That's gross.
He moaned, hopping away in disgust.
I guess that's what chickens do,
said Nina with a giggle. Despite the poop accident, Patrick enjoyed spending time with the chickens, watching them scratching in the sand and flapping their wings. And much to their delight, Max the dog also got along just fine with Nina's new feathered friends.
I wonder which ones are female hens and which ones are male roosters,
said Patrick.
I hope they're all hens. Roosters make a dreadful noise,
said Nina's mom. Every morning, Nina would let the chickens out of the coop to roam around the garden, and every evening she would gather them back up and return them to the coop. As soon as she could tell them apart, Nina named the chickens Gip Gip, Penny, Lulu, and Doody. It was fun to watch them develop their own personalities. Gip Gip was the biggest. She was a brown hen that was always hungry. She was also rather bossy. Penny was a white and orange hen. She liked to eat from Nina's hand and was very friendly. Lulu was a very lazy, relaxed hen who preferred to nap in the sun rather than explore the garden. And then there was Doody. The family first discovered that Doody was a rooster when he began crowing in the early hours of the morning.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Nina, you need to keep that rooster quiet.
Ugh, man,
complained Nina's family when Doody's crowing woke them up. About a week later at breakfast, her dad said,
Nina, I'm sorry, but we have to return Doody to the farm coop.
No, please, let me try and keep him quiet,
cried Nina.
Okay, you have one chance, but if Doody wakes us up early again, he's going back to the farm,
said her dad. Nina knew that it was natural for roosters to crow, but she had to come up with a plan to keep Doody quiet in the early hours of the morning. Just the thought of losing a rooster made her cry.
Don't cry, Nina. I think I know how to fix the crowing problem,
said Patrick.
You do?
Yes, I've noticed that Doody follows Max everywhere. He drinks from his water bowl and even tries to eat his food. Doody thinks he's a dog,
said Patrick, grinning broadly.
You're right, he does,
giggled Nina.
Instead of putting Doody in the chicken coop, why don't you try tucking him in next to Max in his dog bed?
That's a great idea.
And guess what? From that night on, Doody slept like a baby in Max's dog bed. The family no longer had his loud cook-it-doodle-doo at 3 a.m. Instead, Doody started to crow at the much more reasonable hour at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, Patrick, you're the best brother ever,
exclaimed Nina as she gave him a big hug.
Thank you so much.
And so we come to the end of another Nalibali story time. Today's story was called Nina's Birthday Chickens, written by Laurie Ann Preston. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nalibali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You'll find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nalibali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nalibali, it starts with a story.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM. FM in Johannesburg. Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, ANC bars alleged corruption accused from candidates list and Johannesburg water supply systems recovering. Good afternoon. Starting with election news. ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa says party members who are alleged to be involved in corrupt activities will not make it onto the party's candidate list. The ANC's Integrity Commission recommended that those implicated in graft should be barred from standing for public office. This comes as over 90 ANC members were implicated in the State Capture Commission. Ramokgopa spoke to Morning Live today, where she unpacked the ANC's manifesto, which was launched in KwaZulu-Natal last month.
Our guidelines are very clear that those who do not qualify, those who have been found guilty as stipulated, those who have had to step aside will not qualify to be on our list. We are guided by the Integrity Commission, and the Electoral Committee is assisting us to effect that. You must remember that we have an independent electoral committee which is chaired by Kgalema Motlanthe that is also assisting the organization with that part of it as well.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed suggestions that his visit to Mpumalanga today is an ANC election campaign disguised as government's presidential imbizo. The president, accompanied by several ministers, is in Emalahleni for the 12th District Development Model presidential imbizo. His entourage will tackle the water crisis that has ravaged the province recently. He says in as much as the country is going to elections in 2 months, this does not mean that the government has ceased to exist.
We've been having imbizos for the past 5 years, and there was no idea that these were electioneering initiatives. And the work of government cannot stop because we've got an election coming. When I go to an election, I don my ANC T-shirt and all that. But here I've come as the President of the Republic, which I've been doing in the past 5 years, going to interface with our people. And these imbizos are so beneficial because we listen and hear what people have to say without any electioneering, and people from various parties come, put their views forward, and we follow up.
Johannesburg Water says the water supply systems which were affected by power outages at Rand Water's Aikenoff pump station are recovering. Many areas and suburbs in Johannesburg are still without water for several days now. Joburg Water spokesperson Nombuso Shabalala says while pumping at Aikenoff has resumed, it will take a few days for the system to recover.
Johannesburg Water has noted improvements in areas like Soweto, our commando system, which is Brixton, Crosby and Hurstville, and some parts of Rudaport. As an intervention, Johannesburg Water has 27 roaming water tankers that have been deployed to all the affected areas for emergency water supply.
The Western Cape Police say they've seized abalone to the value of 2 million rand in an operation focusing on the smuggling of abalone between provinces. Police spokesperson Joseph Swartboy says a 51-year-old suspect was nabbed in Walkerville in Sidibeng in Gauteng by members of the Western Cape Stock Theft Unit. Swartboy says the suspect tried to evade arrest when officers approached his vehicle. And finally, a former Google software engineer, Ling Wei-ting, has been charged in California with stealing trade secrets about artificial intelligence while secretly working for 2 Chinese companies. He's accused of stealing more than 500 confidential files. The BBC's João de Silva reports.
According to the indictment, Lin Wei-ting was hired by Google as a software engineer in 2019. A few years later, he allegedly began uploading information stored in Google's network to a personal Google account. Meanwhile, he was also spending more time in China, where a startup tech firm offered him a job as a chief technology officer and a salary of about $15,000 a month. He also started his own tech firm there with a focus on artificial intelligence.
Recapping the top story, ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa says party members who are alleged to be involved in corrupt activities will not make it onto the party's candidate list. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
TV licensors have developed a new GIS-linked national address database to ensure that we can communicate with all our valued license holders. We now have a visual of all licensed and unlicensed households nationwide in order to effectively communicate with you. We remind you to take note of our payment reminders and avoid paying penalties due to non-compliance or choosing to ignore your legal obligation to pay your license fees. We can communicate with all our license holders through cost-effective electronic methods, enabling us to collect license fees and continue to support the national broadcaster, the SABC, in accordance with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act No. 4 of 1999 as amended. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Eskom understands that electricity is an integral part of running a business. However, electricity demand is currently higher than supply, and energy efficiency is critical. Businesses are encouraged to reduce consumption between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. by not leaving electrical equipment on standby mode, as well as turning off unnecessary lighting. We can reduce load shedding by working together. Every kilowatt counts.
SABC Sport remembers the fallen hero, the legend of the beautiful game. Spiwe Dr. Mandi Mkonza, a great football analyst with a unique language that hits straight to the hearts of the fans.
Technically, the teams are in a different level, and the quality also shows.
This former defender just knew how to draw the undivided attention of the football-loving community. Rest in peace, Dr. Mnandi. You left a remarkable footprint. SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
I see you as you leave. I feel it, I see it as you leave. When we kiss, I want deep, boy, you're far. Everything treated me like I was a queen. What spell did it cast on me? Or was it a make-believe? You say, girl, never be afraid of ever loving me. Those words I hung on to. Oh God, I was a fool. You became my bad habit, keeping up appearances so you could notice. When you suddenly pick the things and left the keys, that's crazy. for sure. Iwanika, shasha. Iwanika, shasha. Iwanika, shasha. Iwanika, shasha. Iwanika, shasha. Iwanika, shasha.
It is Asha coming through with Bibanke is the name of this particular song. Anything that she touches, we absolutely love to listen to. A great representation of her homeland of Nigeria, of course. Dual citizen right there. Nigerian come French with really incredible music. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. We're going to get into a conversation now around franchising with the Franchising Association of South Africa. But first, let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation. The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
Guys, can we all go to the UK when it's summertime? And I'm putting it out there into the universe. Then we can use AI to find us the best tickets and how to just get around it and just go and chill for a second. It will be winter here and it will be summer the other side.
Exactly. Just maybe quick 3 apps that you can use that use AI. The first one is called Roam Around. The second one is Wonder Plan. The third one is Wayfind. Just Google these 3: Wayfind or Wonder Plan or Roam Around, and you just play around. You put in a few details, and AI will take care of the rest for you. As you said, it will tell you when to book the flight. Flights are not the same. If you book on a Monday, it's different from a Tuesday, and it's sometimes thousands of rands that you can save.
Smooth, Mkwanazi.
Bertha Charuma. Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
So I will have, instead of me cheating for, not me, let's say my husband having an affair with whoever. Well, me too. I'm capable. How would you define cheating?
the reception of the word cheating, and when it comes into our emotional understanding. In terms of African way, there's no cheating. In African culture, there's no cheating.
David, I beg to differ.
No, let me just put this one clear. In olden days, in our culture, the father of Matuma will go to work somewhere, or he will be doing something or somewhere committed, and they will tell the younger brother to look after his wife. And they will go even to look after his wife because the wife is lonely. And those are elders that will decide that. So, and then I asked you, will you call that cheating? And you know, even in the Bible, in those other days, somebody will go and look after the wife of so-and-so.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
I was hanging out with the Urban Warriors who claimed to know the Red Devils, but a Terminator was quick to correct them by asking the Bees to recruit the Hornets to stop the mess. So who are the Urban Warriors, the Red Devils, Terminator, the Bees and the Hornets?
Urban Warriors is Cape Town Spurs, the Beast is Tendai Mtawarira, the Red Devils is Manchester United, Terminator is Dingan Mabalane, the former soccer player.
It's Cape Town Spurs, Manchester United, Dikgang Mabalani, Brentford.
The Urban Warriors are Cape Town Spurs. Red Devils, very easily, Manchester United. The Terminator, well, locally it's Dikgang Mabalani. The Bees are Brentford, and the Hornets are Watford. Watford in the Championship.
Top Sport on SAFM. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Alrighty, let's get into this conversation. So despite the volatility and, of course, the uncertainty that we see within the South African economy, franchising is still one of those things, one of those business models that's regarded as quite a viable option for most South African entrepreneurs, especially those that want to get into what might be perceived as a foolproof, well-established business with a good track record. In fact, it's still considered to be a highly feasible area for potential growth within the South African economic sphere. But it does have its own challenges from time to time, and there could be some areas of concerns for potential franchise. And we thought we'd get into the conversation with the Franchising Association of South Africa's CEO, Fred Makgatso. How are you doing this afternoon, Fred?
I'm fine. How are you, Bridget?
I'm fantastic, thank you. I mean, before we even get to things like the challenges and have a closer look at some of the incidences that we've seen surrounding the lawsuit between Pick n Pay and one of its biggest franchisees, let's talk about, just the business model of franchising. Like I said, it's still one that's very much attractive to a lot of South African entrepreneurs, especially those people that are wanting to get into business and maybe have not been in business before and are looking for a business that's considered to be fail-proof.
I think first things first, one needs to do self-introspection to understand what are your skill sets, what's your knowledge about business, what are your shortcomings. Because if you don't do this, you get into a situation where you don't understand anything. That is why you see some are taken for a ride. It's when you start showing that you lack knowledge in certain aspects and you don't ask necessary questions.
Yeah.
Then you get into a situation where you make the decision that I want to buy into a franchise. Then you should do your own research based on the knowledge and the skills that you have. You won't do research if you don't know, you don't have knowledge. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't know what to look out for. Then you are saying, I'm going to get into franchising. Which franchise am I interested in? And what are other options? Because the challenge that we face is that you find that somebody is only looking at one area when there are other opportunities that are quite suitable for them and the kind of funds and their outlook. Then you investigate that sector. What are the trends? What are the issues? Then you pick a brand that you think is of interest to you. then you do research on that brand. Let's say you're interested in Fred Incorporated. Before you can even speak to Fred, go out there and find out who is Fred Incorporated.
Yeah.
What does it do? Who are the franchisees? How does Fred Incorporated treat its franchisees? Then you come to me and say, I want to franchise your business. And this is what I know. What else can you give me to convince me to become your franchisee? Because remember, you are pitching to me. Then I should be able to provide you with more information.
Yeah.
Then we have what we call disclosure documents. Before, even if you sign the franchise agreement, but the franchisor has to provide you with the disclosure document that tells you how healthy is the business. You take that document because the franchisor is obliged to provide you with a list of their franchisees. Don't sit around. Go around to those sites. Find out who are the owners. How are they cracking it through? What are the challenges? Is the franchisors are supportive or not? The deliveries, the supplies and all that stuff. You get someone who buys into a franchise, they don't know any other for a franchisee. And you ask yourself, what happened before you click inside? Then you are happy. You can talk to the franchisor if you have funds to pay, or if you want funding options, the franchisor will assist you in referring you to the bankers and other financiers who will help you to buy into a franchise.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is some great groundwork that you've sort of covered at the moment, because, just to pick up on what you say about, the starting base being your own self-introspection of your strengths and your weaknesses. So your own SWOT, your own personal and professional SWOT analysis of thyself. And I wonder, do you find in the business that you're in, obviously with the Franchising Association of South Africa, that a lot of prospective franchisees actually do that initial self-introspection, or people gravitate towards picking a business based on its popularity, even though they don't necessarily have a personal and professional interest and know-how in that particular business?
I think one of the greatest opportunities about franchising is that we have established brands that attract everybody. Everybody who comes, they want to buy into a certain brand. But if you ask that person if they like cooking, for instance, somebody will tell you, in fact, I don't like cooking. But here you are, you're supposed to train your staff about cooking, and you don't like cooking. And that already is a weakness. Right? Then you want to go into the business of automotive, let's say for tires, and you don't know anything about a car. How would you fix complaints, or how would you attend to complaints or mistakes by your staff? Because at times, remember, you got to roll your sleeves and show them, this is how we do business. This is how we clean the kitchen. So the majority of franchisees, potential franchisees that we get, they want to buy into a brand that they don't even know about, that they don't even investigate it. That is why at times you'll find that you qualify financially, and some of the franchisors, that's why we encourage that you should buy into franchisors who are our members. Some of the franchisors out there, they don't care.
Yeah.
You come with your unencumbered cash, 300,000 or 500,000 or 800,000, you paid over, they train you for a week, they give you a store, you don't know what to do. 3 months down, they shall shout you down and your money's gone. And you complain to us, you say, Fred, I've bought into this franchise, now they are closing me down, they are taking my house. Are they your member?
Yeah.
And you ask us after the fact, and you say, no, they are not.
And this speaks, I guess, to the disadvantages, the advantages and disadvantages, advantages and disadvantages of franchising, because as much as it is seen as a fail-proof business, there's a lot to consider as well, the pros and the cons of the respective business models and whether the businesses make sense to you as the person buying into the franchise.
Bridget, let me be honest. That is why, as the association, we are establishing an occupational training module, which is called Franchise Managerial Occupational Training Course. The reason for that is that we want to take entrepreneurs who want to go into franchising to undergo that course. Then it will become clearer for anyone who wants to go into franchising to understand the dynamics. It's not the easier model to get into, but once you get into, it becomes sustainable.
Mm. What are, Fred, tell me, what are the sort of, because there are instances where the disputes will arise between franchisors and franchisees. And what are sort of the rights or the resources that are available to franchisees that feel that they do have a credible and substantial grievance that they are bringing against the principal?
Let me start by pointing at the very foundation of complaints. Is the franchise agreement. What does the franchise agreement provide for? Some of the franchisees, they don't even go through the franchise agreement. All what they want, they just want to sign. Right? 2, they go into these franchise agreements without the services of an attorney who is experienced in franchising. Because the franchise agreements will provide avenues to address complaints. And in most cases, the usual first point is with the franchisor, where you articulate your complaint in writing and say, these are my issues. As the franchisor, how can you help me? Or this is what I don't understand. Please help me. Then, if you don't get joy, then you look at what the franchise agreement provides for. Is it arbitration? Is it mediation? Is it court? So our members, they know we have the mediation service that we are offering. Non-members, they choose not to go to court because some they feel that the majority of franchisees who are non-members cannot afford to go to court.
Yeah.
And some they are even scared of losing their homes because at times you find that if you go to court, you lose your matter, they're going to attach your house because of the legal costs and all the stuff.
I get
but
you.
In terms of mediation, there are no costs attached to the complaints administration process.
And
that is very viable for any franchisee who is our member.
Fred, I'm running out of time, and I know I did allude that I want to get to the Pick and Pay matter, but I feel that will require more time, and perhaps I'll tackle that a different day with a franchise legal expert. What, just quickly, guidelines that people should look at, because you talk about franchisors that are not members of the franchising association, so I'm presuming not then governed by your particular code of ethics and conduct. So what should people be looking out for if they're looking at getting into a franchise? And maybe, these lesser known franchises, Bridget starts a wax something and then she decides that I'm going to franchise it after 2 years or so. Surely there should be some red flags that people must look out for.
Yes, ask that franchisor, are you a member of FASA? And if he says no, and ask why not. Yes, because FASA holds franchisors to account. So those who are non-members of FASA, the majority of them, they don't want to account to anyone.
Point well taken. Fred Makato, thank you so much for the time. Fred is the CEO of the Franchising Association of South Africa. And Musa standing by with the headline news.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Bridget. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says Israel is ignoring the International Court of Justice ruling in relation to the provisional orders aimed at stopping Israel's bombardment in Gaza and recently in Rafah. Police in Gauteng are on the lookout for suspects after 2 people were shot and killed in Germiston this morning. It's believed the killings are related to taxi violence as taxi operators embarked on a strike in Ekurhuleni Ekurhuleni this morning, leaving commuters stranded. And ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa says party members who are alleged to be involved in corrupt activities will not make it onto the party's candidate list. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
I mean, at one point in time, we spoke so often because she was quite the involved school mom and really just taking on all the many challenges and issues that were surrounding the National School of the Arts at the time on behalf of her daughter and the student body. We're joined now by the Artistic Director of the National School of the Arts, Brenda Sekelaridis. How are you doing, Brenda?
Oh, Bridget, it's lovely to hear you again. I'm doing well, thank you. Yes, flourishing in this wonderful space of creativity at the National School of the Arts.
Fantastic. It's so good to catch up with you. A quick one before we get into the festival, the jazz and pop ensembles in concert. Just give us a quick update on, the status of the school now. Have we surpassed some of the most recent year hurdles, and are we seeing more support from the department in as far as ensuring that the school continues to do what it does best?
Well, the Gauteng Department of Education looks after their schools, and we are a school of specialization, and we do get, special attention from them. But the challenges remain very real. I have to be quite forthright about that. The school has challenges with, an old building, the failing infrastructure. We also have huge problems with our utility bill at the moment, that the consumption is unreasonably high. So those are the challenges we face at the moment, which obviously eat into our budget and our sustainability. So if I have to be completely honest, those are huge challenges on the horizon at the moment that need urgent addressing. And we do hope that, if it's corporate South Africa, private donors, come to our help, because we're educators and we're artists, and when it comes to engineering and fixing failing infrastructure, we need to call in those guys to come and do it, because they know what they're doing. So if there are any engineers listening now, please, the NSA needs some help sorting out our consumption and our water, etc., because at the moment those bills are strangling us and very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, a lot of artists and of course creatives, working. Some alumni of the school have oftentimes spoken out and and advocated for the school in some really tough times. And I'm no doubt there'll be somebody who decides to come in and help you guys. And I mean, you shouldn't be concerned, Brenda, with aging infrastructure. It shouldn't be an area of concern for you guys, considering the incredible alumni that you continue to produce year in, year out, and the impact that you make in the creative sector. You guys should just be one of those schools that everybody is putting their hands up to say, we've got your back.
I agree with you. Maybe it's our challenge to reach out to the right people in the right way. So we continue to try and reach out and use platforms like this very powerful one that you've given us today to say, we do actually need help. I think public funded schools will always need help. They'll always need support to get out of the challenges. It's difficult to keep institutions like this completely 100% sustainable without significant donors, coming to the fore.
Absolutely.
And that's why I always say, if creativity is the currency of the 21st century, then the school is the richest in the land. But unfortunately, creativity is not enough. We need some more cash. That's what we need as well.
Absolutely. So let's give people a little bit, those who may not be familiar, I don't know, with the National School of the Arts. Let's give them a little brief background of the school, and then we'll get into the jazz and pop ensemble concert.
Right. Well, the National School of the Arts was born in 1993, a year before our democracy, and it saw the amalgamation of a school called De Crane and the old Johannesburg Arts, Ballet, Drama and Music School. And they came together in 93 to form this wonderful National School of the Arts, which means we've just had a 30th anniversary, and we're in our 30th year of this school. But as the arts school, it has a history that exceeds 50 years. So there were learners having specialized arts education, in the mid-60s. And so it's a very important story to archive. But going back to my earlier point, we are now classified as a school of specialization. And these are a special family of schools within the Gauteng Department of Education, where they've actually highlighted certain kind of disciplines and early talent identification, and then the children are given specialized education in that field. So at the National School of the Arts, we have 4 portals of entrance to get into the school, and that's either art, dance, drama, or music. So all our learners audition, so they've got to demonstrate a fairly high level of talent to get into the school, matched with academic acumen. So the children are academically and artistically astute. And I think for corporate South Africa, the National School of the Arts, a matriculant from the school, is one of those creative thinkers that they need, that the world needs, that corporations need. I think of the one of our learners who's now doing his final year actuarial science. I think, well, he plays the guitar like a rock star. He's an actuarial scientist. He's going to be incredible for any institution, so that's the edge that the school offers, is that not all the learners go into the creative sector, but wherever they go, their creativity and their sensitivity is heightened, and they become very, very powerful players across the spectrum. And I think that's what people need to acknowledge, is that, don't think of it as an art school only. Think of it as a school of profound creativity that can have its place and manifest right across the boards.
Lovely. And I couldn't have put it better myself. And that why Brenda is always the perfect person to advocate for the National School of the Arts. All right, let's quickly get into the jazz and pop ensembles in concert. And this is something that's become quite the firm favorite, not only on campus, but also out there in corporate South Africa.
Absolutely. Our music department is on fire at the moment, really. We are home to the most extraordinary talent. And we've had these pop-up jazz and pop ensembles at school, be it in the quadrangle, in the foyer, out on the field. And really, the band is superb. So when it came to planning the season at the Joburg Theatre, we thought, let's just amplify what we're doing every month at school and share what we have with the greater public. So that is what we're doing this weekend at the Joburg Theatre. And the Mandela is a huge theatre. So we're hoping to fill it to the rafters, and we hope that anyone listening today is just going to get that diary out and say, that's where we're going on Friday or Saturday at 7 o'clock. So we have a wonderful array of jazz, pop music. We've got the choir, which is about to rival any choir in the land. It's because most of the singers are soloists, so the sound that they make when they're together is, you have to come and hear them. They're chillingly magnificent. They really are completely wonderful. So that's our choir. We've got our band. We've got incredible solo performers, and we also have the first performance of our brand new orchestra. And they premiered in the foyer of the school about 10 days ago. And they were so magnificent that we decided to change our program a little and give them a spot as well during the NSA Jazz and Pop Ensembles this weekend. So it's an array of music, and it's also supported by some of our dancers. And it's going to be a really wonderful music concert this weekend for anybody who loves music and also loves seeing young artists owning their space and showing us that there is indeed a bright tomorrow.
I mean, who wouldn't want to come see, a group of incredible soloists coming together to form a choir, listen to some jazz quartets, and of course, very exciting, the fact that you've now got a full-on NSA young orchestra.
Indeed, and it is so exciting. When we heard them, we thought, oh my word, it was a portal of opportunity opening up in that moment, and the children are so engaged. And there we have to thank our educators, have inspired educators who are absolutely firing up their enthusiasm in this instance.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, and also this weekend, we also paying tribute to Gloria Bossman in one moment during the show, because she was our artist in residence actually at the time of her passing.
Oh.
And we've been wanting just to find a moment just to have a gentle salute to her. And we've also now going to be renaming our Beethoven Hall, which is the sort of concert venue at school. We're going to be renaming it the Gloria Bossman Music Hall. And I think it's very significant, also because we want to remain relevant, and I'm not saying Beethoven isn't relevant, but I think in our context, having a Gloria Bossman room is very significant and very special.
Absolutely. So the big concert is on this coming weekend, the 8th and the 9th at 7 p.m. And it's at the Mandela Theatre at the Joburg. Tickets available through the usual ticketing portals?
Yes, indeed. They're available through web tickets.
Web tickets is where we can go to get tickets for that one. And trust me, if you love the sounds of South African music, South African performers, especially the young, cool custodians of jazz, a lot of them are the alumni of NSA. So NSA rather. So wouldn't you like to see where they start and how they start? I can guarantee you're not going to regret it. That is the National School of Arts bringing you the Jazz and Pop Ensembles in concert, happening on the 8th and the 9th. 7 p.m. is where you have the date at the Mandela Theatre. And of course, you can get your tickets through web tickets. Brenda, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you so much for taking our call today. And that was Brenda Sekalaridis, and she is the Artistic Director at the National School of the Arts. Let's take a quick break, and then we find out what's coming up on Beyond the Headline.
Introducing a collection of Audi Black and Urban Special Edition models crafted for the bold and curated for the progressive. From the sporty Audi S3 and elegant A4 to the distinctive Q2 and Q3, each vehicle has been created to be an extension of your identity. Style, design, comfort, and technology is yours to own with a guaranteed future value and a competitive monthly installment through Audi Financial Services. Visit audi.co.za to discover more.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
As always, we start off with how the markets have been moving throughout the day. Some very interesting moves, some that we will look at, some that Uncle David absolutely couldn't care less about. And he joins me now on the line, David Shapiro of Sasfin Wealth, to take a look at some of the market movements throughout the day. Good evening, Uncle David. Bitcoin, 62,000. You're unfazed.
Yeah.
Love it.
SFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
From the Star newspaper in Sheffield, Joe Cran, where do you think the priority is for Man City? Obviously, they're fighting on multiple fronts this season. They would like to try and win whatever they can.
I don't really think they need to prioritise one. The squad they have is so good and the depth that they have is so good that I just don't think they really need to prioritise. Obviously, last season we saw what they did on all fronts, so I don't see why they wouldn't be aiming for something like that again.
This weekend, Manchester City are playing Liverpool in a match which is going to have key significance as far as that title race is concerned.
Yeah, it's great to see. I think all three teams at the top have won exactly the same amount of games. They're not too far apart in terms of goals scored as well.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Aldrin.
Ta 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 ta. Dum dum.
It's him harmonizing for me. It's him harmonizing. I mean, I had to get to the birthday. Yes, I had to get to the birthday. I'm not going to ask you how old are you, but
Well, I'm 36. I'm 36
now.
Are
you 36?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I'm such a youth.
Oh,
it's gone.
How does it feel?
We have all of those years gone, you know?
I mean, does something change in your world when you come out of youth? I came out of youth so long ago that I'm just like...
I don't know. I've just arrived. I've just arrived. I don't know. I've just arrived.
I love it. What's coming up today?
Okay, so coming up on the show this afternoon, we are looking at, we're in conversation with the Freedom Front Plus. They are part of our interview this afternoon. We're focusing on their manifesto, and a part of their manifesto as well is the support for the Cape exit.
Surprise. Yes. The colony to be the colony.
Yeah. So we will be speaking to the Freedom Front Plus about their economic proposals as well. So they'll be joining us for that conversation. And then also one other story that we're looking at is the Gauteng Care Crisis Committee that has issued a statement disappointed that the Department of Social Development has cut, the Department of Social Development's budget has been cut. And this means that the money that is supposed to go to the NGOs the department is supposed to be supporting, that it means that their money also gets cut.
Yeah, and NGOs have been complaining.
They've been, especially in Gauteng.
Yeah. All right, he's keeping it nice and light today because it's his birthday. So, all right.
Gotta keep it smooth,
You gotta love it. We didn't bring him cake because we are conscious here. Which is summer is around the corner. So that is Aldrins and Piers coming up between 3 and 6.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
MasterChef, the biggest, most loved culinary TV show on the planet, is coming to S3. This fresh local version of MasterChef South Africa will cook up a storm on S3 for the first time in 2024. Remember that you can enter for the show via www.masterchefsa.tv and start prepping for the opportunity to win R1 million and, of course, the prestigious title of Mzansi's new MasterChef. Also remember that entries do close on the 15th of March. Channel a better you on S3.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Our final conversation this afternoon, we are going to be catching up with award-winning debt management specialist, Paulvia Shiburi. How are you doing this afternoon, Paulvia?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thanks. How are you, Bridget?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Listen, we're still firmly within Piscean season, so we are having a great time this side of the world. So both men and women, we know and we recognize, need to be sufficiently financially literate in order to effectively participate in, of course, any and all economic activities, and of course to be able to take appropriate financial decisions for themselves. But women often have less financial knowledge. This is very surprising, considering that I think we have more women in the workforce.
I mean, that's true. I mean, there are a lot of challenges that women face, and financial challenges that women face. And financial literacy is top of the list. And we also have financial dependence, and but primarily that's because of we financial literacy has not really been a core subject in all matters, whether we're starting at school or in tertiary, wherever we are. Financial literacy has not been the core thing in terms of equipping women and also equipping young girls to make sure that they make sound decisions when it comes to money, or they have a good relationship when it comes to money. Most of the people that we see today learn about financial literacy, like just after getting their, first job or just graduating. That's when they want to learn and how to handle money. How can I handle money at this age of my life, at the certain stage of my life? But by then, a lot of them, I wouldn't say too late, but it's probably a later time to be learning about all those foundational, aspects as to where money is involved.
Yeah, and especially, Paulvia, when we consider also the role that women play in society and within our families, and oftentimes at the helm of just even domestic budgeting and domestic financial planning. And when we consider the amount of single mother-led households in South Africa, I would think that this delayed knowledge puts women in a position of disadvantage.
I agree, it does, because a lot of women, like when we look at, for an example, financial dependency, you may find that a woman is responsible for 70% of the household expenses, as opposed to what men are expected to do. And that's primarily because it comes with their caregiving responsibility. They have to make sure that everything is in order. Kids are taken to school, and also, they've got other aspects as well, not just their individual family, but also other families. But we normally see this in households that are led by women, or where breadwinners are women, and particularly single mothers. That's where they now start to take out, either they accumulate accumulate a lot of debt, or they simply do not fulfill their debt obligations.
And then tell me this also would then, it's a rippling effect, right? Because then you get to a position where you need to access some kind of financial product, but you lack the knowledge, you lack the literacy, and it might then kickstart a negative perpetual cycle of how you relate with money and how money relates with you.
That's correct. Now, what you've just mentioned right now, that a lot of people, like a lot of women, when it comes to financial products, such things such as your life cover, your funeral, how many of women actually have that and actually maintaining that? You find that they have it in the first 2 years, but after that, somehow it has lapsed. And when you check what's the reason for that, it's primarily because they are taking on too much, because they're literally just trying to, take care of their families and also make sure that they build a secure and stable household.
And the conversation around gender pay gaps, very important to the work that you do and the kind of education that you do around women and finances. And I think sometimes the conversation becomes so convoluted that it doesn't quite land or resonate in the way that it should.
I was reading an article on Global Citizen that when we look at globally, the World Economic Forum, it says that women earn on average just about 68% of what men are paid for the same work. And then 40% on average in other countries. So now you find that a woman and a man are in the same position, and but however, they are not getting the same income. But there are a lot of factors to that. We're looking at gender being one of them, which is the first thing. And when we look at gender equality, this is something that it's a very slow process right now in South Africa. However, it will take a lot of years, a bit of time to make sure that the gap is closed, and then that pay equity worldwide can be achieved in closing that gap. We noticed that even after COVID, the pandemic has sort of like worsened this whole situation, impacting women in their economic spheres.
In a practical practical example I like to use when we talk about this gender pay gap, because sometimes when we speak statistically, people will go, you women are always making a noise. Actress Michelle Williams co-starred in a film. I'm forgetting the film now. She was top billed in the film alongside actor Mark Wahlberg. Then comes reshoot for this film, and she gets paid $1,000 to reshoot. Yeah. He gets paid $1.5 million to reshoot. And for me, I'm like, that is one of the most practical examples of what we talk about when we talk about gender parity. Both of them top billed for the film in an equal position, doing equal co-bill starring. She gets paid $1,000 and he gets paid $1.5 million for the exact amount of reshoot days.
You know what I would say is that majority of the countries worldwide, they do have laws in place to ensure that equal pay, there's equal pay for equal work. But these laws are not always implemented appropriately. And I would say that there are legal requirements for equality, but that is only part of the issue. It's not just entirely resolving the problem. It sort of like gives it. We sweep it under the carpet to some extent. But there are requirements, there are laws that needs to be put into practice. They exist, but they do need to be put into practice to make sure that there is a gap that's closed between, the gender pay.
Absolutely. Let's also talk a little bit in our final moments about what you call the tailored debt counseling programs, and I guess tailored and specific to women.
Look, I would say that each and every woman and men, obviously, we have, your situation is different from my situation. Financial situation could be different from yours. So when we say tailor-made, we look at, will this be able to assist you right now? Perhaps that one product or one remedial action is offered, but does it mean that it applies to both of us? So we have to look at the situation where we see an individual situation and address it from there. I always say that as a debt counselor, debt counseling is not for everybody. You have to look at, can debt counseling assist this woman? Is it maybe not appropriate for this person to apply for debt mediation as opposed to debt counseling, or vice versa? So it really depends on the individual's financial situation, and it needs to be tackled not just generally but individually, and to be able to make sure that women are being given the best situation out of their debt.
Yeah. In our final 30 seconds, Paulvia, are there any resources that are specifically and specially designed for women that women can access?
I mean, there are quite a number of materials that people can access. I mean, ladies can access on the internet. One of the things that we normally see is that First for Women always just issue a whole lot of financial, articles that can assist in women doing that, going through that, studying the material that explains, because now they cater for women. They also have a number of articles that they can go through. And then what we also want to be doing in PS Debt Management is that we also want to introduce a program that will be specifically for women and how to get out of debt. These are some of the things that we want to be working on, that we can offer materials as well that can assist women get out of their financial situation.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. That was award-winning debt management specialist Paulvia Shiburi. And that is how we wrap it up today. Aldrin Sampear is coming through. I get the feeling that he's initiated the spirit of Kekeleza today because it is his birthday. So he's easing himself into adulthood, as you heard. It should be a lovely show. It's a birthday show after all. So send through all the birthday messages. From myself and my team, we thank you so much for choosing to be with us. Coming to you live tomorrow from just on the outskirts of Limpopo. We are on the road, but our conversations continue on social media. You can find me on X as well as Instagram at Bridget Masinga. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
I was hanging out with the Urban Warriors who claimed to know the Red Devils, but a Terminator was quick to correct them by asking the Bees to recruit the Hornets to stop the mess. So who are the Urban Warriors, the Red Devils, Terminator, the Bees and the Hornets?
Urban Warriors is Cape Town Spurs, the Beast is Tendai Mtawarira, the Red Devils is Manchester United, Terminator is Dingan Mabalane, the former soccer player.
It's Cape Town Spurs, Manchester United, Dikgang Mabalani, Brentford.
The Urban Warriors are Cape Town Spurs. Red Devils, very easily, Manchester United. The Terminator, well, locally it's Dikgang Mabalane. The Bees are Brentford, and the Hornets are Watford. Watford in the Championship.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Do business big. Sign up to selected Telkom Business LTE and fiber deals and get a free NSBC voucher worth 3,950 rands. T's and C's apply.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Speaks on ICJ's ruling on Israel and police probe Germiston shooting. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says Israel is ignoring the International Court of Justice ruling in relation to the provisional orders aimed at stopping Israel's bombardment in Gaza and recently in Rafah. South Africa has again submitted a request to the ICJ to examine whether additional provisional measures are required to protect Palestinians caught up in the Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza. Ramaphosa says Palestinians are now exposed to extreme hunger.
Israel has not been complying with the order that was issued by the court. So we've seen it fit to approach the court on an urgent basis, particularly with the view of addressing the challenges in the Rafah area, where a few days ago more than 100 people were massacred. And we want the court to take another decision on that.
Police in Gauteng are on the lookout for suspects after 2 people were shot and killed in Germiston this morning. It's believed the killings are related to taxi violence as taxi operators embarked on a strike in Ekurhuleni this morning, leaving commuters stranded. Gauteng's police spokesperson Mavela Masondo.
Police are on a lookout for the suspects after 2 people were shot and killed in Germiston on Thursday morning. It is reported that the victims were inside their car when they were shot. The motive for the killing cannot be confirmed at this stage, although it is suspected to be related to taxi violence, as both deceased are said to be members of the local taxi association.
In election news, the ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa says party members who are alleged to be involved in corrupt activities will not make it onto the party's candidate list. The ANC's Integrity Commission recommended that those implicated in graft should be barred from standing for public office. This comes as over 90 ANC members were implicated in the State Capture Commission. Ramokgopa spoke to Morning Live today, where she unpacked the ANC's manifesto, which was launched in KwaZulu-Natal last month.
Our guidelines are very clear that those who do not qualify, those who have been found guilty as stipulated, those who have had to step aside will not qualify to be on our list. We are guided by the Integrity Commission, and the Electoral Committee is assisting us to effect that. You must remember that we have an independent electoral committee which is chaired by Kgalema Motlanthe that is also assisting the organization with that part of it as well.
The CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, Busi Mavuso, says it's clear the department